Hello, everyone. Thane Westerman here and Anne Riddell. Anne, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Anne Radelphs. I call myself the gardener of the soul. And that's what I've been doing lately, Thane. I've been gardening.
Wow, that's
It's
exciting.
actually sunny and getting warmer here in Texas, and everything's popping out of the ground. It's so exciting. I love seeing growth.
Signs of spring. It's just here in the near future that the 20th of March. Used to be the 21st, by the way. My son was born on that, and then they changed the date.
A lot of things are changing these days. The
Yes.
growth stays constant. And that's what I've been just loving the growth and bringing it inside and thinking, gosh, where am I not growing? Because in the garden, there are not only plants popping out of the ground, and of course, grass is coming up, but there are rocks that I'm finding in the soil, and rocks
Mm.
don't grow. And there are rocky places in all of us that aren't growing. So it's kind of a season not only to be focusing on growth, but looking at areas where we're stuck.
Yeah.
And I call that the mineral stage when we are stuck in a place. And we've talked about trauma and how trauma gets us to separate from those human qualities that feel the pain and think about why did this happen? What did I do wrong? And we just start moving away from those parts of ourselves. And the next thing you know, without our humanity, we get increasingly dehumanized and rigid and rocky in our way of negotiating life. We become stuck, mechanical, doing unto others what was done unto us.
Mm.
We're no longer growing. So that's what's been coming to mind as I dig into the at times rocky soil.
So, what do we do with those rocks, Anne? I mean, nobody wants to be rocky.
Some people do. It's very comfortable.
Mm,
Don't we all know people that you offer your help and they say, "Oh no, I'm good. I'm good."
that's
And so,
true.
yeah. So what we do is we look for them inside ourselves, we look for them inside others, and we try to just ever so slowly make a change.
Mm.
For some people, it's just going a different pathway to work, having something different for breakfast. Rather than always going to your favorite restaurant, you pick something new. Rather than it has to be my way, let it be your way this time.
Mm.
Just practicing any sort of movement to get ourselves out of those rocky places.
Yeah, because one of the things that comes to mind is as we age, we get more set in our ways. So it's maybe more important for us as we age to um, kind of embrace some things that could be different and ways of doing things differently, right? Mm.
My 97-year-old mom tells me again and again, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
But it's not true. It's not true. Tell me
That's
it's
what I
not.
say. I say, I disagree. I have a different belief system.
And we can just change our beliefs. That's simple. Like, yeah, like how young are we and how, our words are so impactful. And like you said, just change up what you eat or the restaurant you choose to go to, or maybe stay home and fix something healthy. Yeah.
I was on social media the other night and I found an 100-year-old woman who won a race in
Mm,
the over 95-year-old category. Who
mm.
knew there was an over 95-year-old category? Did you know that thing?
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Isn't that
Maybe
incredible?
one my age, I could try it. I'm
This
looking for something
woman,
to motivate me to get into better shape.
this woman looked fantastic. And
Mm.
to me, she's showing us the potential for us all.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes a mind being willing to say that's a possibility. But as long as oh no, you have to understand aging means A, B, and C.
Or that you can't travel. I just had a guy say he took his mom out of the country. She was 92. Um, and he took her out of the country, and she had a prosthetic leg. So when they were kids, she never would get in the water with him, and he took her out in the water. And he had to
Oh,
hold her because the leg started to float, I guess. And it was just amazing, his story about his mom, and he just held her, and how she traveled at 92. And like my mother-in-law, she doesn't want to travel. She hasn't traveled since she was in her 80s. And I'm like, why stop unless you have to? And she's, so, and I do know some people push themselves. I mean, but I think it's important to kind of continue to push ourselves and grow and have that love for life, and realize that at 92 you can do something you've never done before with the help of somebody else. So I just thought that was such a beautiful story for him to share his mom, and she later passed at, I think, 94, but she still
wow.
had 2 more good years, and she got to experience something she'd never experienced in her whole life. And the other interesting thing that I thought was so amazing is that he got to have his grandmother, or his mother, no, was it his, actually that was his grandmother, I'm sorry, it was his grandmother, live with him and take care of her in her last years. And then he took her on that vacation. And I just think that's such a beautiful story. I just thought that was totally out of my realm of thinking, that, oh, maybe my grandkids will have that relationship. you know it just excited me to hear that it was his grandma. And what a beautiful relationship they had up until the end.
And such a beautiful metaphor too for we all have our handicaps. And we can
Me
either
too.
I can't thing because I have this handicap, or we can allow people that don't have the handicap to guide us, to hold us up.
I love that.
Isn't that better?
Yes, yes, and be willing to accept help.
Mhm.
That's like receiving love, right? I mean, it's good to be able to receive. I remember Deepak Chopra had a book, and it's Seven Spiritual Laws of Parenting. And the thing I took away from that book was, oh my gosh, kids don't feel love unless they're giving it. And we feel it when we're giving it. But to be lovable is actually just as important as loving, because the other person doesn't get to feel it unless they're giving it. I thought, well, we all need to know that.
Yeah,
So,
there's something to be said for receptivity. I
mhm.
love it when people receive who I am. Have I ever told you the story of he was a profoundly retarded boy in the hospital. He might have been 10, 12, somewhere in there. And I didn't know how to connect with him. So I put my hand on his head, trying to just establish a relationship.
Mhm.
It was like he received all that I am. It was exhilarating to be wholly received. And I
Wow.
turned to his mom and I said, "What was that?" And she smiled and said, "Well, that's my son's special gift. He's
Oh
able
gosh.
to take people in wholly without, oh, woman, I don't trust women, or someone with dark hair, they're this or that. We base things on our past experience rather than being receptive to this moment and this fresh person I'm with and taking them in rather than putting our past on them and not being able to receive from them because of the filters built up from the past.
I love that.
A beautiful story,
Mhm.
such a profound gift. So, the extreme of being profoundly retarded, and yet he had the best receptivity I've ever known in my entire life. I'll never forget this boy.
Wow.
It gave me.
Beautiful.
And it's something for us all to aspire to. I find so many people aspire to give, and that's wonderful, but to aspire to receive, to hold,
Mhm.
see one another,
Mhm.
such a gift.
It is a gift, and probably because of his handicap, actually served him to have that capability to keep holding that and be that for the world,
Mm.
because he didn't have to unlearn so much of what we try and teach. that keeps us from our gifts.
Isn't that true? We didn't
Hmm.
have that learning that makes us rocky because we know, right? And we suddenly have this
Hmm.
filter of knowledge. And so we can't, women are such and such. So we can't receive what they really are because we've already been taught what they are.
Right. Yes. And we believe it's true. I like to ask, is this really true?
Mhm.
And really tap in to your soul and your connection, um, to find out if what you're saying is true.
Mhm.
And
Good question.
many people are teaching things, and is it really true? I mean, I did that as a young child. I thought that you had to be married to have children. And this girl said, a friend in like elementary, she said, "Oh, no, you can have children anytime." And I so believed you couldn't that I actually convinced her that you couldn't, and that you had to be married. And I was the one wrong convincing her that. I just think it's kind of, yeah, we need to even check out what we're being taught and
Mm,
see if it resonates. And as
sure.
young children, we don't think to do that because you want to get the best grade. And um, yeah, so we need to go back and review some of that stuff that's so deep back in our mind that we've believed it however many years, and it might not be true.
And those children that exist within us all are making similar judgments to what you did as a child and really
Mm-hmm.
interfering with our lives because we
Yeah.
think we know and we are
Well,
rocky in our belief system, unwilling to listen to someone who actually knows better.
yeah, that's a good revelation I think we had here on the call. And even with me teaching somebody that they were wrong and she actually was right, you know? So, yeah, I love it.
Much as we know, because I know people often tell me, look, my doctor told me. And yeah, I'm not disagreeing with their doctor, but
I think science would prove
bigger,
it wrong.
there could be a bigger perspective. You
Well,
know,
yeah, it's probably
science
it's
proves
morally probably
it's
better
good.
because you're more committed and you should be committed before you get pregnant, right? Like, for especially the thought of bringing a baby into the world, you know?
Well,
But
I used to work in a um, sex clinic, I guess
mhm.
that's the way to put it. And we gave a lot of birth control. And I was amazed at the number of people that came in talking about their kids as if they were happenings.
Mm.
And like one woman I remember speaking to, I said, do you understand if you don't take the birth control, you could get pregnant and you will have a baby and you will have to care for that baby for 18 years. And is that something you want? And one woman said to me, oh, yeah, that's happened. What's happened? Having babies. Oh, how many times has it happened? And she said, oh, 3 times. This was a teenager who had 3 children already, 3 happenings. And I was just blown away by my culture where you plan for children. You make sure everything's good, you good finance,
Mm-hmm. That's a
relate.
lot of commitment there.
And and in her culture, it was a happening.
Wow.
And I went home thinking, wow, wow, so
Hmm.
different.
Yeah, that's very different. I mean, 18 years and it doesn't really end. And,
Mhm.
not that you can't. Yeah. Wow. That's kind of shocking. There might be some rocks in that path. Not that we only get to know our own, I assume, but and should only probably be concerned with our own, maybe, because we can't change anybody else but ourselves. And
Well, I have a different opinion on that in the sense that I've seen a lot of traumatized people hurt
mhm,
others tremendously. such as these people never recovered. So you definitely can
Hmm.
harm someone in that way, changing their life. So I believe that if we can permanently harm someone, like killing someone, that's changing their life forever, at least in this lifetime, um, then I truly believe that if we're coming from a spiritual place, we can make an even greater impact for the good than these
Hmm.
are doing.
Well, and yeah, and we can lead by example and who we are, and offer loving our loving thoughts on different, maybe even taboo subjects, you know,
Mhm.
like, yeah, not that anything should be taboo, but seems like in our culture there are some taboo
Many
subjects. Yeah.
getting increasingly numerous.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, going back to rocks in the garden, rocky places are any way we're stuck as far as same behaviors over and over again. When our spouse and kids say that doesn't work for me, we keep doing it.
Hmm.
That's a rocky behavior. Or rocky emotions, always the same emotion, whether a person needs that or not, you're going to give them the exact same thing. And it can be being loving with people that really need a strong hand. It can
Hmm.
being unloving with people that desperately need loving care. So, any sort of rigidity in emotions or rigidity in mind, belief systems are absolutely stuck, immobile, can't change with all the evidence in the world. This is what I believe. So, those are our rocky places.
Hmm.
And we cannot grow where we're living as a rock.
No.
And spring is a time to think about growth.
I love that. It's a great analogy.
Well, anything else, Thane, before we conclude for today?
I can't think of anything, but just a big rocky cliff comes to mind. And who wants to be a big rocky cliff? You know? Yeah, let's handle our rocks, and if imagine if we all do it, how that will affect the whole world by taking on our own rocks and healing them. And I don't know, Anne, if you want to talk about our little call that we do on every other Monday, next Monday, right?
Yes, healing group coming up a week from today, and we're working on our rocky places.
Yeah. So join us and reach out to either Anne. I think Anne, you put your website below.
AnneRadelfs.com.
Yeah. And if you need to get a hold of me, I best to text me at 425-345-3953. If you have any questions or want to come to one of our healing calls, we'd love to have you. And they are quite spectacular, I will say.
And our rocky places so often show up in our physical illnesses, as far as looking at bone diseases, some
Mm.
bone out of alignment. The hard places in ourselves are very common places where our rocky psychological condition shows up medically with medical problems.
Is that also your teeth then? Because they're hard.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh, good to know. Okay. I've got a friend saying she has some teeth issues. Just met a guy at a hotel when I stayed, and he had to go to the dentist, but he was having teeth issues too. So yeah, don't just ignore your teeth issues. That's as important as your bones.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Anne.
Dennis, but look for those hard places inside that need some tweaking, need
Yeah.
some care.
Look forward to seeing you. Thank you. Bye.
See you next time. Bye.